Hi, in this recording, I would like to take a look at chapter 3, verse 1 and 2 of the book of Luke, because I want to show you how Antichrist and the false prophet are prefigured in these two verses, okay? So let's go there. Okay, we there? All right, good. It says, now in the 15th year of the reign of Tiberius Caesar, it's the first name, Pontius Pilate being governor of Judea, that's the second name, and Herod being tetrarch of Galilee, that's the third name, and his brother Philip, the tetrarch of Iturea and the region of Trachonitis, and Lysanias, the tetrarch of Abilene. So we're just going to look at these five names, and I want to show you how each in their own way contributes to the type of Antichrist, who I believe is still yet to come. I believe in the futurist view of prophecy and end-time prophecy. So that's my point of view, which is commonly shared. I mean, not everybody shares that, but this is my view. But I want to show you here, first of all, Tiberius Caesar. Tiberius Caesar is the second emperor of Rome after Augustus. And he was known to be really wicked and corrupt, although he was, oddly enough, a good administrator. He reigned from 14 AD to 37 AD, so it encompasses the lives of both John the Baptist and Jesus, right? Well, at least to some degree for Jesus. And he dies after Jesus is crucified, all right? So the fact that he is a Roman emperor is enough to make him an Antichrist type, because we learn from places like, let's go to, well, we're going to just look at Revelation 13 because we don't need to really look at Daniel 7. This is the expansion of. In Revelation 13, we have here verse 1, and I stood upon the sand of the sea, that would be the sea of the Mediterranean Sea, and I saw a beast, some monster coming up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Now this is very much like what we have in Daniel chapter 7. Daniel saw a beast coming up with 10 horns, right? He didn't mention the 7 heads, but John does. So we know it's the same beast. It's the fourth beast. It's Rome. And upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy, okay? So we know that this is really the Roman Empire. So Tiberius is a Roman emperor, and he's a wicked man, right? As a matter of fact, he was so bad that his final act, when he goes to create a successor, in order to extend his evil beyond the grave, so to speak, he picks Caligula, if you know anything, that's an infamous name, to be his successor. That man was a madman and an evil man. He said, this is a quote from him, he said that he shall be a serpent to the Romans and a python to the rest of the world. That's Tiberius speaking of Caligula. He picked the most wicked man he could. Well, that's Antichrist. I mean, right there, just an evil, evil man, just an epitome of evil, right? So that's number one. So he, by virtue of being a Roman emperor, becomes a type of Antichrist. Number 2, Pontius Pilate being governor of Judea. All right. Basically, the land of Israel is split between 3 areas: Galilee, Samaria, and Judah. So this is Judea, all right. So this portion where Jerusalem was is run by a governor, a prefect. Now, what got me about this one being an Antichrist figure is this, and to me this was the most striking. The governors of Judea began in the year 6 AD. And they went up to 66 AD, 666. I was blown away. I mean, you can't get, I mean, it's so blatant, a type. I was like amazed at that, right? And Pontius Pilate being the 5th of 14 governors, and that throughout that period of 61 years there. Wow. But I won't say any more about him. We'll move on to Herod. Herod being the tetrarch of Galilee. Well, Herod is actually a client king. He's not a governor, he's a king. He comes from Edom, the people of Esau. So he's not really a Jew. But he is a client king. Now Herod does something. What is it? Even Luke tells us here in verse 19. It says, but Herod the Tetrarch, being reproved by him, that is by John the Baptist, for Herodias, his wife, his brother Philip's wife, that he took and married her, and for all the evils which Herod had done, added yet this above all, that he shut up John in prison. Well, we know what happened afterward. Herod had him killed because of, his stepdaughter, right? And his wife Herodias. Okay. So the reason why I'm pointing this out as a type of Antichrist is because John the Baptist, as you know from your reading of the Bible, New Testament, you come across this, is that even from like Luke 1, when Gabriel was talking to his father-to-be, he said, he shall come in the spirit and power of Elijah, right? And Jesus says on more than one occasion that John the Baptist was Elijah, who would set everything right and restore everything before the Lord came, right? So John the Baptist is an Elijah figure. So we have a prefigurement by John the Baptist about Elijah. Why is that important? Well, in Revelation 11, right, we have both John and, well, we'll see what happens with, not John, but verse 3. And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses. Now, again, this is believed by those who have a futurist view of prophecy, that the 2 witnesses are Elijah and Enoch. And they prophesied in Jerusalem for 1,260 days. Now, here's what happened in verse 7. After they're done their prophecy, and when they shall have finished their testimony, that is their service to the Lord, the beast that ascends out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, against those 2 men, and shall overcome them and kill them. So the beast that comes up out of the pit kills Elijah. So now if you go back to Luke, right, look what we have. Herod kills John the Baptist, who is the type of Elijah. So Herod becomes a type of the beast coming out of the pit in Revelation. That's powerful, in my opinion. This is like all these names are, so powerful. I had no idea. I normally skip by names, at least I don't pay much attention to them. But boy, when I went looking at these names, I was like blown away by what I was finding. Now, the final 2 names, Philip, who we know a little bit about because his wife Herodias, divorced him and married Herod, so, But Philip, the brother of Herod, and this man Lysanias, we don't really know much about them. We don't know much about their character or anything like that. Maybe research will find out some things, but that's not what gives their Antichrist typing away, except the names of the places that they rule over. Iturea, Trachonitis, and Abilene, right? Well, I had to look those places up. I decided to look them up because I thought, well, maybe these 2 names don't really matter. But this is what they do, because they're all in the region north of Israel in the Syrian area. Syria. And I went, oh, there you go. There's your type. Why? Now, I don't want to get too deep with this because you'll have to read it yourself. But in Daniel chapter 8, in the vision of the ram and the goat, when the goat hits the ram, which is Greece attacking Persia to defeat it, when Alexander dies, we have 4 main generals taking over portions of the area that Alexander had conquered. And one of them takes over Syria. Okay? And this is called the Little Horn, the Syrian king. Now, you have to study this to find that out, but that's what it is. And he produces the abomination of desolation. In his day, he lived around 170 BC, and he attacked the Israelites. He put a pig on the altar of the Jews, and he just was trying to destroy their religion, right? And there was a revolt of the Jews against him, and they kicked them out, and they were able to kick the Greeks out and so forth and get them, out of the Jerusalem. And so that was Antiochus Epiphanes. He was just an evil, evil man. But he's the ruler of Syria. He's the king of Syria, okay? Also called the king of the north. So that's that. I mean, that's it's also found in chapter 11. If you go to chapter 11 and verse, 36. Speaking of him, you can read that part for yourself. I don't want to get too deep into this because I don't make this a long video. But you can read from verse 36 down, and that king is the king of Syria in the latter days. Okay, so there's going to be a latter day fulfillment of this Syrian king who Philip and Lysanias prefigured because of where they rule. That's all we need for this. Okay. Now there's one other element I want to talk about in this whole thing, and that is, I want to go back to Herod a bit, okay? Or Judea, actually Pontius Pilate of Judea. Now Judea was ruled by a king, Herod. Herod the Great was the one that killed the children, the infants in Bethlehem. That's Herod the Great. He died in 4 BC. His son Archelaus took over. But Archelaus was such a bad client king of Judea. This is Judea now, not anywhere else but Judea, where Jerusalem is and so forth. Archelaus was deposed by Rome, and Rome decided no more client kings of Judea. That's when they started to rule them with governors. And Judea went from being a client kingdom to a province, which means that they're ruled by a direct authority from Rome itself. The empire itself rules them. But the reason why I'm bringing that up is this, because I thought it was very interesting. In Genesis chapter 49, okay, this is Jacob speaking to his children. Now we're going back, like 2,000 years or whatever it is, back in those days before Jesus came. And now when he's talking to Judah, talking about Judah, all right, let me get there. Excuse me a second here. I get it. I thought it was 10, but I think I'm wrong. Of course I'm wrong. I'm in the wrong chapter. Okay. It's in 49. This is Jacob prophesying to his sons. And here, verse 10, speaking of Judah, because that's in verse 8 down to 10, down to 12, but we're in 10 right here, okay? It says, the scepter, which means a ruling, emblem. The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come, and unto him shall be the gathering of the people. Why am I bringing this up? Because when Rome took away the client kingdom status, they no longer had a king of any kind. Now, this king, certainly, the Herods are not from David. They're from, Esau. But the point is that it was enough of a statement about that they had a king. The idea here is that once the kings were no longer in power at all in Judea, which is Judah, he's talking about Judah, the region of Judah, the scepter had departed completely, and now they were a province. No longer a kingdom like Galilee was, or a client kingdom. What happened? Here's it is. Because Shiloh had come. Shiloh had come. Now, who is Shiloh, or what is Shiloh? That's the Messiah. Jesus had come to earth. So when he came to earth, and this would be around the time he was 11 or 12 years old, he became a man, bar mitzvah, That's when the Judah became a province because Shiloh had come, scepter had departed. I just thought this was such a very powerful kind of insight into these verses in Luke. I'm telling you, you know, oops. This is something. Yeah, so the thing is, the reason why I believe that we have these actually, I should finish with Luke chapter 3, verse 2 here. Annas and Caiaphas are being high priests. Annas and Caiaphas represent the false prophet, because Antichrist will have a false prophet. So Antichrist represents the political, civil system of the end, and the false prophet represents the religious system of the end. Now, Annas and Caiaphas are about as evil as they get. Caiaphas was high priest when Jesus was condemned, and Annas was also involved in the trial of Jesus. So they very well represent the false prophet who accompanies the Antichrist, and that's found in Revelation 13. You can read that for yourself. That's where he's found out. So Annas and Caiaphas become the false prophet types, whereas the first five men of the first verse are types of Antichrist themselves. And the reason why I believe this is happening is I didn't realize that Luke was doing more. At least he may not even known it, but the Lord was using him to prophesy through types something about the coming of Jesus. When Jesus came, look at this situation. The government is as corrupt as it can possibly get, and the religious system is as corrupt as it possibly get. And it's in these days that John the Baptist came and Jesus came, and they were both killed in this situation. So Jesus and John the Baptist, the Elijah figure, and Jesus both, when he first came, are coming in the days of strong types of the Antichrist and the false prophet. When Jesus comes again, Herod will, the beast that ascends out of the pit, will have killed the Elijah right before Jesus comes back. And Jesus comes back the second time in the days of Antichrist to kill him. So this is really interesting. I mean, this is just such a powerful connection between these two verses and the realities of the first coming of Jesus and the second coming of Jesus. So these are the words I want to leave you with. God bless you. In the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, amen.